Welcome to Blurred Lines, Crime, Conspiracy, and the Truth Behind the Gossip. Hosted by me, Ash, or also known as Ashtootrippy. Join me as I dive deep into the murky world where crime, conspiracy, and the juiciest gossip collide. Each episode peels back the layers of mystery, uncovering the facts, the theories, and the whispers that blur the line between truth and fiction, which its unsolved cases, mind-bending conspiracies, or the latest scandal. I bring a fresh perspective and a fearless approach to unraveling the unknown. Get ready for a wild ride where nothing is off limits, because sometimes the line between reality and rumor is a little blurred. This is our weekly recap episode. As a reminder, every Tuesday is a weekly recap into things that I find interesting or things that I have noticed people are talking about, including true crime, any kind of conspiracies, and also any kind of gossip that's going around, including our trash talk segment. I hope you guys enjoy. So let's get into a couple of stories that have a few blurred lines. Hey everyone, welcome back to Blurred Lines, crime, conspiracy, and the truth behind the gossip, hosted by me, Ash, or as I go on most of my social media, Ashtootrippy, or you call me Trippy, really doesn't matter. But today is our weekly updates podcast. I'm still trying to think of a good name for it, but basically it is your weekly dose of true crime and gossip where we just recap and update on, what's going on maybe new crime cases or ones that, people are talking about right now. So join us as we talk about all that fun stuff, just talk about things. I'm going to include a few other portions. If you guys like those segments, let me know. If there's something you want me to incorporate, also let me know, because, I would love that feedback from y'all that are listening directly. All right, so I'm going to start this with the updates on the Madeline Soto case. Now, just a little refresher for you guys. Madeline Soto is the 13-year-old that went missing in February 26th, from Florida. And basically, there's some basic stuff going on with the cases. I'm going to give you kind of a brief recap here. So on February 26th, Madeline's mother went to pick her up from school, but she was shocked to learn that Madeline had never arrived. It was soon after discovered that Madeline's mother's partner, Stephen Stearns, had driven her to school that morning. Stearns has denied any involvement in the disappearance and the death, but the investigation has revealed some troubling evidence, and that evidence right now against Stephen Stearns, Madeline's mother's boyfriend, is overwhelming in my opinion. So they've released video footage showing a man driving a car matching the description of Stearns' vehicle. In the video, detectives believe they see a limp body being moved from the passenger seat to the trunk of the car at a parking garage. This has raised some serious concerns about Stearns' potential involvement, and again, Stearns has remained that he is not involved, that he actually has stated in recent filings that he has done that it's somebody that looks like him pretty much. So and here we're gonna go into it here. In response to this, Stearns' defense team has filed several motions, including attempts to suppress evidence from his cell phone and a Google search warrant. They've also filed over 50 motions, including one to remove the death penalty from the case and another to limit how the word murder is used in court. Yes, so him and his attorneys are working very hard. Again, that's their job. So I know a lot of people are very upset about these things that are taking place right now, what he's asking and things like that, knowing what we know as far as not only the abuse case, but also the murder case. It's not something that sits well with us, especially since we've heard a lot from Madeline's mother, Jennifer Soto, and how she basically was allowing all of this and somewhat encouraging in some opinions this to take place. So the judge has decided to continue the hearings until April 23rd, with the jury trial scheduled for May 5th to the 21st of 2025. This means we're likely to see further developments as the legal process continues. At the center of Stern's defense, they argue that the death penalty would violate his constitutional rights, citing various amendments and international human rights laws. They've also referred Pope Francis' stance against the death penalty on this. So again, I know a lot of people are not happy with what's going on as far as, what they're asking. But again, we all have to remember that with this going on right now, it's something that he has a constitutional right for, and it's something he's paying his lawyers for as well. There's just so much of it. Again, so there's a couple of others I just wanted to briefly go over here. Is he's asking not only for the death penalty to be off the table, but also he doesn't want to be shackled or have any kind of restraints during the trial. And he also wants to use quote unquote real writing utensils to take notes. That's, I don't know, just mind blowing in my opinion. Basically, also arguing that the material on his phone, as far as Google searches and things like that, are not relevant to the murder, and alleging that the man on camera that especially was found throwing away Maddie's backpack was not him, and also arguing, of course, that Maddie's slump body in the car was her asleep, when, obviously her body tells us a whole different story within itself. So again, overwhelming evidence against Stephen Stearns, and we're going to continue following this. There's a lot of questions that still haven't been answered in this case, and there's a lot of people that are really aggravated with the way that the justice system is working. But again, there's many flaws within our justice system, and also a lot of people questioning Jennifer Soto and how, all of that is going to end up. I honestly think that Stephen Stearns may say she was aware of this and she was encouraging it. Who knows? But they definitely have something up their sleeve, and they're definitely working overtime on helping this guy out for sure. Now, on a little bit, I guess you can say a lighter note. I'm not going to say that it's 100% lighter, but a little bit on the older side. I guess it'll comfort you knowing that this person is, one, no longer alive, and two, it was a long time ago. But I don't know if you guys heard that Jack the Ripper, basically, identity has potentially been uncovered. I only say potentially because it looks like this British researcher is seeking legal confirmation on behalf of the victims' families on this case that's over a century old. This took place in London in 1888, so it's over 130 years old. And basically, he's remained one of the most mysterious and chilling unsolved cases in history. So these new developments are basic from forensic experts and researchers. They continue to dig for this information, and they uncovered it was actually a Shaw from the Jack the Ripper killers. It was his fourth victim. He ended up killing 5 women. Catherine Eddowes, she was murdered in London's Meetry Square. Now, the guy that they are alleging this DNA belongs to on the Shaw. Now, the DNA was found a couple of different places. I guess it was found with semen from the Shaw, as well as some blood that was on the Shaw. I guess that also matched his. But his name is Aaron Kosminski. He was a Polish barber who was 23 at the time of the murders. Kosminski was a suspect in the original investigation, but he was never arrested or charged or anything like that. And basically they said that he did had schizophrenia. He was admitted into an asylum at some point. His occupation was basically a barber / surgeon, and that's kind of what they associated a barber with. I recently learned that as well from a show I watched, that they're, even in ancient times, they were considered surgeons or medical staff of one way or another, barbers. Yeah, so a lot of people also made this connection with the Sweeney Todd movie. It's like, this is really wild. But I mean, I could see like back in the day how some of these people would become a barber because it was simple, just for their own fantasies or whatever. Now, again, this is alleged 100% match. I'm only saying alleged because, again, it's not been completely legally confirmed as of right now. But it's very interesting to know that they were looking at him as a potential suspect, and now he's basically their main guy. Now, again, since this happened over 130 years ago, this dude is no longer around. But it's very interesting and intriguing to know, and it would be very interesting and intriguing to know if the victims' families would ever speak and share their bloodline and things like that. I don't know, I just find that stuff interesting. Okay, so I know there's a lot of stuff surrounding Sean Diddy Combs. I wanted to kind of go over this because I talk a lot about it on my social media accounts, because I've watched everything that's to do with Diddy, just because it's just so weird to like hear over the years of allegations and things like that, and then to all of a sudden start seeing the facts start coming out and the shady stuff start making sense. So I just really like talking about it, and I really like deep diving into that kind of stuff and kind of see where it's going from here. But one of the recent documentaries on Peacock has actually ruffled Sean Diddy Combs' feathers a little bit, because he's suing NBC and Peacock over the documentary Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, claiming it's maliciously and recklessly a reckless broadcast of lies and defamation. So basically, this was actually one of the better documentaries, because there's a couple that TMZ came out with, there is some that Tubi came out with, there's a bunch of different documentaries out. I believe 50 Cent is producing one still that's going to come out on Netflix. So there's a lot of them coming out, a lot of different ways. And so this one, Diddy, The Making of a Bad Boy, was actually one of them that intrigued me. And we hear different points of views. A lot of these other documentaries have the same people in them. This documentary has a few others, like LB Shore, and that's one of the main reasons that Diddy is actually doing this. And it's kind of weird. So he's suing NBC and Peacock, but he hasn't dropped any kind of defamation against the certain people that have spoke, because they also speak with a previous assistant that he had, and he actually released actual text messages between not only Diddy, but also between Diddy's like right hand girl that was like his manager at the time. And they were just simply disturbing about all of these events that were taking place and what he required to be at these events. It was just crazy. So for him to go and say, these are malicious and reckless because of the cases that he has right now with the United States government is kind of crazy to me. Him and his lawyers have always stated this about everything that's been said, that it states it lacks a foundation of reality and has conspiracy theories interested accusing him of being a serial killer, which they're basically saying that people are accusing him of being a serial killer because he's killed all these people because they've been in his way. But it's not that people are calling him a serial killer. People are more or less calling him like a hitman. Like, he's threatening people to do his work for him. So it's not necessarily a serial killer because he's not doing it. And I think that he manipulates people in a way to like say, hey, maybe you should do that. And I think it triggers people's thoughts. So, behind the whole Tupac and Biggie situation, I think he manipulated the situation. I think they're exaggerating the fact that people are saying serial killer like he did it and it was at his hands. But, he's going to say that to save his own ass. He has money to do it, so he's going to do it. It's crazy. He states videos people say they have, they don't, and NBC has knowledge that none of them exist, is basically what he's stating. So again, just going into that saying that they basically know that nobody has them because nobody's ever seen the videos or whatever. But honestly, in all reality, putting it to that level, that's true. I mean, so many people have said they have these videos, but I know lawyers have said they've seen them and things like that. But I haven't, I mean, not that I would want to see one, but just for like validity, maybe stills of, somebody or somewhere. So, I mean, to give benefit of the doubt, there hasn't been that. And, last I heard with the federal government, a lot of the videos or hard drives that they had, they were having a hard time getting into them. So that's something I think he has knowledge that maybe even very few people have access to. So I don't know. That's just my opinion on that. I just think that it's funny to go after, a company, a production company that has clearly just given people talking about incidents that they've had with this man, and people still they just don't get it. And it kind of throws me into the rant that I have going on over on my TikTok account. If you guys don't follow me over there, definitely go follow my TikTok, Ashtootrippy. It's the only account. Don't ever follow one that has a number at the end. It's just Ashtootrippy, where I was talking about Backstreet Boys' announcement that they made. So originally I had assumed, because I'm going to admit it, I assumed that their announcement, because I don't follow these people anymore. These men, I don't know. They all give me the ick now, knowing what I know about what I know. I'll get into that in a bit. So basically, they made an announcement stating that they're going to be the first pop act to play at the Sphere in Las Vegas, Nevada, with a residency that will feature 12 performances from July to August. So I thought that it was a tour, but I'm pretty sure that if this does good, they will announce a tour. So basically, I had made a video just reminding everybody, because it was on my FYP like crazy on TikTok, just reminding everybody about the little documentary that Hulu did about Nick Carter and the Carter family called Fallen Idols. If you guys haven't seen it, I recommend you watch it, but basically it accounts what Nick Carter and Aaron Carter endured as children and how their lifestyle was and what exactly the allegations were against Nick. And I encourage you guys to look into that, but it just brings me into this stating that, a lot of these people that are famous or people that have money, people don't realize, like, you only see people. I have people in my comments telling me, oh, well, Nick Carter won all of these cases and it was defamation and all of this other stuff, right? But you guys fail to see that this documentary, yes, it was one-sided, because it tells you in the documentary itself that they reached out to Nick Carter and his team and they didn't want to speak on it. Why don't they want to speak on it exactly? Also, there's just a lot of stuff as far as victim blaming, like saying, oh, it was thrown out in court, then it has to be a lie or it's not true. That's not necessarily true. It's just one party had a little bit more money and a little bit more defense to say this is not true. And to say that this was part of like the Me Too movement and all this other stuff is crazy too, because like, I don't know, I guess maybe in my perspective, I see the Me Too movement happening to bigger stars and bigger people that are around the world and things like that. And people say that it's to do with, the admiration and people wanting to be with him and throwing themselves at him and all this other nonsense and regret and, like things that you're just arguing about and just taking away from somebody's experiences, even saying like the time frame and things like that. So I want people to remember that SA cases are very hard to prove, yes, because it's always it's always seen as a he said, she said, when it shouldn't ever be that. It should be whoever is feeling like it was not right is feeling that way for a reason. I've even talked to people like, I never liked Nick Carter because he was always off, things like that. I am thinking of doing a deep dive into that here on the podcast. So if you guys are interested, definitely leave me that feedback. But go and check out my videos over on TikTok. And I don't know, I may be wrong. but I just don't feel right discrediting, because you put yourself in their shoes. And as I've been telling everybody over there, I just really hope it never happens to you, to where somebody doesn't believe you, because that's just a very sad circumstance to be in. And I would hate to think that way just because I'm enthralled with the way somebody's jawline is, but that's just me. Again, that's just me. No hate, appreciate, not really, but whatever. All right, so I wanted to do another segment on trashy TikTok, but you know what? Trashy TikTok moves faster than I do, and I procrastinate a whole lot. So, yeah, you guys are gonna have to bear with me. So, I thought that maybe in this one we can kind of do a backstory on what trash talk is and who we watch on trash talk, and this is basically just stupid shit that happens on TikTok that we all talk about, or all can't stop talking about, because it's right there in our face 24/7 against our will. You know what I mean? If you know, you know. Anyways, yeah, I call it trash talk. There's a hashtag on TikTok for trash talk too. So, I thought I'd use that. So I don't know if you guys know the lore of Ashley Trevino. If you want me to go deeper into it, we can, but I really don't want to, guys. I don't. If you know, you know, and if you don't, you don't. Sorry, maybe skip ahead 10-15 minutes. Anyways, Ashley Trevino has been named the worst mom on TikTok, basically because she is a 36-year-old woman that sits on live a majority of her lifetime span eating hot Cheetos and cheese dip. I'm sorry, hot Cheetos and bean dip, and basically has never bought her kids a bed, and she's been living in her apartment for about 2 years now, and she has 2 girls. One is 10 and I think the other one is 15 or 16, or sorry, 12 and 15 and 16. And basically, she just hasn't bought them beds, and people argue that she doesn't even have custody. She has admitted recently that she doesn't have custody of her oldest, which is, her name is Haley, and that her parents have custody, and if you guys don't know, this all takes place in the great state of Texas, in Ennis, Texas to be specific. She recently did a podcast. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. It's Camila. She is an OF model. She runs the Bop House. And she does a podcast. I know. I thought the same thing when I thought about it. These underage kids were going on a podcast with their 36-year-old mom. Then there's so much more to go in with that 36-year-old mom. But basically in the podcast, she addresses all this stuff, how she likes to date inmates. That's how she kind of became popular on TikTok, was she was an inmate hopper, where she would write inmates and, she'd be with them. She's actually still married to an inmate, and she had a previous inmate that she was married to as well. So she's been married a couple times, I believe. I do know that she's been married a couple of times, so there's that. But there's a lot to go into this. I'm just kind of giving you a brief recap. But she did the podcast with Camila, and recently she's been talking a lot of shit. Now, I'm recording this really late, so I am getting some information now. She has taken a trip to Los Angeles. She went live with Jose Bay, which I don't know if you know who Jose Bay is, but he used to hang out with like the Shorty Bay crew, the Wilito crew, and then they kind of separated, but he makes fun of Ash. And basically there's a lot of stuff going on with that, where he had somebody like spray paint outside of his apartment about him collabing, quote unquote, with Ash, and he's just like really upset about it. I mean, it's true. Anybody that collabs with this girl, she's gonna talk about them, and she's not very nice about it, and it's just really trashy, and that's the way you perceive yourself when you collab with this girl. Like, Shorty Bay isn't even collabing with this girl, so that tells you a lot of stuff. So let me tell you this, is anybody, I mean, she's talked about every single person she's ever hung out with, and literally this woman, again, she's 36 years old. I know she looks like she's 42, but she's 36 years old, and she loves to hang out with kids that are like between the ages of 19 and 25, and everybody's like, oh, that's adults. No, it's not adult. When you're 18 and over, like, you're barely getting started into your adulthood. You don't even know, like, sometimes 18-year-olds aren't even out of high school. So that's one thing. And so she was in LA, and not only did she get her merch, which is, by the way, one of her merch says it's at the end of the day. So one of her merch shirts says at the end of the day, and it's made in real basic font, and then it has like a pair of basic lips on it. And I actually looked up at the end of the day because I was like, I remember seeing somewhere that it was trademarked. I remember seeing a video a long time ago. So I actually looked it up, and in fact, at the end of the day, that phrase is trademarked. So if she puts that on a website and starts selling it, they can trademark her, which is very dangerous to work with that, because they take that super seriously. That's like that. I've seen companies completely lose their whole company because of trademark issues. But real basic shirts, like I could have done better with my whole shirt business I had going before I started doing content creation and stuff like that, because those are real basic, and it'd be interesting to know like what material they're made out of and what exactly it entails, you know what I mean? Because they're super basic. But that's why she was out in California. Supposedly it was a quote unquote really famous person that she was working with in creating her merch. A lot of people are saying it was Corona the Great, which, if you don't know who that is, again, with the TikTok era, he was with like Shorty Bay, Wilito, Wendy, and all of that stuff, and he scammed them out of like money for merch and like quality and all of this other nonsense. So if you don't know him, go look him up, and you'll know that this is what's going on. If that is the person, I don't believe it is, but if it is the person, Ash is gonna get pretty much scammed by him. So that's kind of like a karma thing, which is really cool, but whatever. So I mean, Ash has talked about Camila, and basically she has also, when she was out in LA, when she was, I think it was like her second night there, she was in the hotel room drunk and on the booger sugar again, because you can totally tell when she is. It's like, girl, we know, okay, like, not sorry, we know. But basically, she goes after her, saying she should have had her sign an NDA. First off, if she would have signed an NDA, I would have been surprised, because she would have came back with the same shit for you, and you would have gotten in trouble for the same shit that she doing. You know what I mean? Like, the same, like, that doesn't work. Anyways, she's over here with NDAs, and she's like, oh, she made $60,000. Well, Camila has admitted she made over $60,000, which was way over, and I believe that, because not only for the views, but, you know, it takes a lot of people to her page and stuff like that, so you have to put that into perspective. But Ash Trevino basically tells her that she's gonna take her to court, and she's like, for what? And she's like, don't you have to have money for that? And Ash is basically saying she doesn't have money. Craziness going on there. But again, I mean, if you don't know, now you know, and I don't really want to do a deep dive on that girl, so Go do a deep dive of your own, and then come back to this. We're going to do this won't be in every weekly recap. If you guys don't like it, well, I'll take it out. It doesn't bother me. But, you know, it's something that I talk to my friends about on TikTok and stuff like that. So, and it's stuff we talk about in my lives on TikTok. So it's stuff I want to talk about, you know, whatever. That also brings me to the portion I kind of wanted to talk about on TikTok Live, where they have new guidelines. They just basically let out this new program to where on TikTok, when you're on live, it has to be engaging, and you have to be getting like new people that are actually coming to your page every time. It can't be the same repetitive people all the time, or IP addresses, hint, you know. And it can be fake engagements. Like, fake engagement is like when you're over here like messaging people from your phone and being like, hey, come to my live and drop like 5 G's. You know what I mean? So they can't be doing that. That's like fake engagement, because people that's going in there, dropping it, not commenting, things like that. Even if they are, I'm sure they can tell what's going on. I want to say that there was a lot of people talking mad shit about this on TikTok, because they were like, oh, it's up to 53% now, and now it can be way lower. And what TikTok is looking for is consistency and people that are actually engaging with people. So it's the same thing that goes along with creating content over there on that platform too, is it's engaging with people. So it's been working out wonderful with me, because I go on live and talk my head off, and I can talk about anything. Even if nobody's talking to me, I can still talk about, you know, what's been interesting me, and, you know, updates and things like that, just like I'm doing here with this podcast. You know what I mean? It's been working great for me. I actually I seen a bonus, so I got I think it was like 51% of my earnings, plus I got like a $5 bonus, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's like an extra $5. Cool, you know what I mean? If I would have went live every single day, I probably would have got more, but I don't go live every single day. I just especially now that I'm doing this podcast, I don't really have time to go live, especially like now that I do have a part-time job. I'm going to start working on the weekends. It's not going to be possible, you know. I like it, but people like Ash Trevino and like all these like rage bait accounts like Young Glow and Norelli, all of these other people that are like faking engagement and like telling people to drop things or sending them money, because that's a lot of stuff that happens too, is people that send people money. They're like, hey, drop it in my live, and then they send them like an extra $500 or whatever. I've seen it happen. It used to happen in my my live. I used to have a live agency I was a part of, and it used to happen all the time. You see the communications, and they started hiding them, but you just know. You know what I mean? So the other TikTok trash I was going to go over, this ended up to be fake news, but I wanted to talk about something else that came to mind this morning over this past weekend stuff that had happened. So I'm talking about the Brie Olsen and Vale. So if you don't know who Brie Olsen is basically, again, she's part of TikTok trash. She goes live on TikTok. She's an escort, among other things. She has a child that the father has 90% of custody pretty much, and she sees him on like 2 times a month or something like that. Something very minimal, but she parties all the time. She's admitted to drug use, all of this other stuff. She's a very young girl. Give it to her, whatever she likes. There's just a lot of things with it. If you don't know, go look her up, Brie Olsen. Yeah. The other girl, Vale, was actually connected with Ash Trevino. She was known as the backseat girl when she was with Ash Trevino. And yeah, so the stuff has happened where she's still the backseat girl. Same thing happened. And basically, Brie and her got in a fight because they've been hanging out a lot. Supposedly, that was fake. That was all fake. They said it was kind of like set up to make it look like that. I do think they got in a fight, but I think it was fueled by other things. Now, here's my new theory right now. Now, I also want to say that Vale she is also a mother, but her children are also with her father, and she's not even trying to fight for her kids, to my understanding. I don't know, I could be wrong on that, but to my understanding, she's not even fighting for her kids and stuff. So now, things that have happened over the weekend. So for Valentine's Day, they went out with their boyfriends, quote unquote. Supposedly they have these boyfriends that have a lot of money. They're really rich. They have like 18 cars and they rent them out and all of this stuff, right? And they always party at the house and everything like that. Well, during the weekend, I guess she was on live. I don't know if it was on Instagram, because it kind of looked like Instagram, but it may have been TikTok, because those are the two they flip-flop from, because Instagram is a little more lenient than TikTok, and sometimes TikTok companion, so you know. So basically, somebody had put in the chat like, put a peace sign if you need help or you're not okay, and she ended up like 2 seconds later putting a peace sign. And let me tell you right now that I know that this girl, Brie Olsen, she's an escort, and she doesn't have the best track record in men, younger men. It seems like the guy she's with right now is super controlling because he's well off, and nobody really knows why he's well off. It's just, she says he has a bunch of cars and he rents them out, and that's all she's really ever said, right? Well, it's weird to me because Brie has actually videoed Vale doing acts in the back seat, and it gives to me a trafficking vibe. I didn't even want to say it, but it gives to me a trafficking vibe. Now, if these girls know this or not, they may be very well getting trafficked. Like, who's to say that the boyfriend, because it has been uncovered that they did find over on TikTok, because you know the TikTok armchair sleuths are so awesome. They did find out that the guy that they're supposedly their boyfriends, quote unquote, because again, they're escorts, or Brie is at least admittedly, they have girlfriends. So that's very concerning because it's like if they do and they have money and they're paying, like that's a whole different level. Now supposedly also over the weekend they did start OF accounts, which also gives very trafficking vibes because since Vale is now in the house with Brie and they're basically all living there together, it gives that they're like forcing her because up until now they have not done this, and in both of those bios on OF for Brie and Vale, they say they're moms. So they're working off of this weird fetish thing. And for some reason, I just get this feeling that, like, if either of those girls get custody of their children, it's not going to be okay for their children. It just doesn't give anything good about it. You know what I mean? And I hate to say trafficking, and I hate to say, make that kind of insinuation on my opinions and things like that or what I'm seeing. But that's what it gives, and it's concerning. And it's even more concerning that it's online because they can very easily be traced back to whoever's home they're at right now or wherever they're at, because apparently people don't really, because now, like I stated, people do find things out, but they haven't been able to find out like where this dude lives or anything like that. So it's just very concerning. They're in Los Angeles, but yeah, it's just very wild. So again, if you guys don't know who those people are, go do your own deep dive over on TikTok. If you guys like hearing about it, let me know. If you guys don't, also let me know. Or if you guys have other people, I also do a lot of the Resilient Jenkins, who I'm actually want to do a little bit of deep dive. I want to do kind of like a trash talk, like not mom version, but like I guess parent version, where equal amount of parents are shitty and they should not be parents. You know what I mean? So if you guys don't like it, cool. But if you guys like it, awesome. I'm all for it. So let me know. So I just want to remind you guys, this is just our update episode. Again, it's basically a weekly recap or updates. So if you guys ever hear stories or anything, always send them to me. Shoot me them in a DM on Instagram. You can find me over there, Ashtootrippy. Also TikTok, like I stated, Ashtootrippy there too. Or you guys can always shoot me an email, and that email is the same too, ashtootrippy@gmail.com. If you guys have cases you want me to go over, deep dive suggestions, or anything that pops up in your FYP that you found interesting, definitely shoot it over to me and I will incorporate it in my weekly recap or updates. But this is just some things I find interesting or that have me kind of like, oh, what's going to happen next so far. I am going to be doing some deep dives as well. So just to remind you, I'm going to do a deep dive on the Happy Face Killer, Keith Jesperson, which if you guys don't know, over on my YouTube channel, or if you're listening to this on YouTube, hey, basically I'm reading his daughter Melissa G. Moore's book, Shattered Silence. And let me tell you, the reason we were reading this was because I read Gypsy Rose Blanchard's book, My Time to Stand, which you can find that on my YouTube as well, in its entirety with my commentary. And we wanted to see the differences because Melissa G. Moore was a ghostwriter for Gypsy Rose Blanchard. I seen a lot of similarities, and them two together kind of coexisted, and it seems like that Melissa Moore has pivoted her into fame, and I want to understand the psychological reasons why me and my trippy tribe want to understand the psychological reasons why Melissa G. Moore is so in support of somebody and not questioning certain things with a convicted murderer that clearly planned her mother's death for not clear reasons. I'm not going to get into that right now. But that's the reason we decided to read it, was because of that. And let me tell you, I've already started deep diving into Keith Jesperson, and there are some discrepancies. I'm not going to credit a serial killer for lying or not telling the truth or whatever. But I can tell you, I see discrepancies in what his daughter says and what he says, and also discrepancies in what his daughter has said on certain Melissa G. Moore, what she has said from interview to interview, a lot like Gypsy Rose Blanchard. So it kind of gives birds of a feather, you know what I mean? It gives a lot of different emotions on that front to know that there's multiple people that are this psychopathic that are going to lie about, just basic traumas that some people survived or even worse than, you know what I mean? So definitely look at that. I would love for you guys to hear it. We're still reading it. I'm not halfway through yet. There's like 45 chapters in this book. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but I'm on chapter 15 that will be releasing later this week. I tried to release 2 a week, where we get at least 8 chapters every week so we can finish it in a good manner. So again, I want to wait till after I'm done reading that book so I can drop the Happy Face Killer deep dive I do on here. So that may be a few weeks. Now, this week I am going to try to do a deep dive, but I can't promise anything because I haven't been researching. I'm trying to catch up with myself and trying to get things going here. So I may do a deep dive on something, that I have worked on before to kind of give you guys kind of a perspective of things on certain things I've already done or things I've covered on my TikTok before, things like that, because I know a lot of people don't do it. Even on my YouTube, I've covered a couple of things like the Ladybird Lake killings and things like that. So I'll probably recap or redo one of those just to kind of keep this interesting, keep this going, let you guys know what the vibe is here. Now, I want to remind you guys, now the podcast is available on YouTube. If you're listening on YouTube, awesome. That's one of the main things right now, is subscribe to my YouTube. Spotify, Amazon Music. Amazon Music is with Audible, so it will be on there as well as the rss.com, which is where I publish my podcast on rss.com. I also do have a GoFundMe, so wherever you're at, you should be able to see that link. If you do not see that link, check in any kind of show notes you have on your platform, and I will leave a link there as well for a GoFundMe. And that's just to keep the podcast running. When I was doing my last podcast, I didn't have a basic outline of what I was doing, so that's why I didn't continue doing it, but also because I have to pay for a hosting platform as well as equipment and getting things running properly and smoothly, and putting together things in a proper manner. It just helps me out a little bit more there. So I appreciate each and every one of you that can donate and choose to donate. It really means a lot to me. So also be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. I am working on getting this all available for Apple Podcasts. If you guys have a preference in where you listen and you're listening somewhere else because it's not available, let me know as well. Again, you can always send me a DM. I'm not too sure. I'm still kind of setting everything up, so I don't remember how it works on commenting on anything on here or anything like that. So definitely, if anything, send me an email again at ashtootrippy@gmail.com, and I will definitely get that. You can also send case suggestions there, things like that. My DMs are always open. I look at all of them. Some I will not open depending on what you're trying to send me, just because I am fully aware of scammers. So thank you guys so much for listening today. I truly do appreciate it. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and always stay positive. Remember to always be yourself. We'll talk about it next time, guys, here on the Blurred Lines podcast. See you guys later.